2020 agenda for this meeting. We have called this meeting to order and confirmed that the requirements of the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act have been satisfied. So the first order of business is for executive session. May I have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of entering an executive session to discuss items incidental to proposed contractual arrangements, please signify your approval for entering executive session by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Joe, I believe we are now in executive session.
You are. I'm going to create a breakout room. Give me just 1 second.
All right, can we have a motion to leave executive session?
Jerry there. So moved, I guess.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of leaving executive session, please signify your approval to do so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
We're now out of executive session and returning. Can we have a motion to leave executive session? Thank you. All right. So we are resuming the special called council meeting. After executive session, the next item on the agenda, miscellaneous business, resolution 2021-22. Resolution committing the town of Seabrook Island to providing a local match for a Municipal Association of South Carolina Hometown Economic Development Grant and following its procurement policy when securing services and products with grant funds. Bill, I'm unfamiliar with this resolution, but I think we had already encouraged you to pursue the MASC grant funding. So if you would bring us up to speed, I would appreciate it.
Sure. So the Municipal Association of South Carolina has a grant program called the Hometown Economic Development Grant that provides grants of up to $25,000 for economic development type projects. Included in the list of eligible projects are things like municipal branding, signage, wayfinder, things of that nature. We have anticipated purchasing and moving forward with some new signage to include a gateway sign as well as the wayfinder signage on Seabrook Island Road. This is a potential source for some matching grant funds. They do require a minimum of a 5% match. I would recommend that we would anticipate putting up 5,000, which would be a 20% match, just to allow our grant application to be a little bit more competitive than had we come in with the minimum 5% match, which would be $1,250. We actually have already submitted through the accommodations tax advisory committee a application that the funds would come from the state ATAX pool of money, which would be tied towards advertising and promotion. So if we are successful in obtaining this grant, we would anticipate our funds coming from state ATAX. As a requirement of the grant program, council is required to adopt a resolution committing to providing the local matching funds and also to committing to follow our procurement policy in the expenditure of those funds. So that's the purpose of this resolution, is to commit to the local match if the grant's funded and to abide by our procurement policy and moving forward with any expenditures with grant funds should they be awarded. The reason why we had to do this as a special called meeting is because the grant application window will close prior to the next town council meeting. So if we are going to submit, we do have to have a copy of this resolution with our application. So if we are going to apply, we would certainly need to have council's approval of this resolution.
Joe, did you say you were looking for a match of up to $5,000?
At least.
Yeah, well, if we can, they don't have to fund the full amount. The amount that we've requested is 25 plus a 5,000 match would be 30,000. Potentially they may come in and say, well, we'll only give you 10, 15, something like that. In which case we would have to decide if we wanted to put more matching dollars in or not accept the grant and abandon the project. So I would recommend that we commit to at least $5,000.
I'm good with doing that if we're taking opinions here.
Is the 25,000 the max of the grant that you can request, Joe?
Yes.
It's okay. Because $30,000 doesn't really buy you much signage. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, my hope is, I told you at the last meeting that we had met with a signage contractor. Before we find out whether we'll get this grant or not and finalize our budget, I do expect to have some better cost estimates for the gateway and other signage, the Wayfinder signage. So I believe that's what I put in our request to ATAX was, I think it was 30. I'd have to go back and double check, but we did put in a higher number than our local match in the expectation that we would apply for the grant. And if we were to receive the grant, then we would be able to use that in lieu of ATAX and preserve that for things like beach patrol and, more direct services.
I think this is a great idea, so I'm totally in support of it.
Barry?
Yes, a much needed upgrade. We need to do this with or without
Yeah.
we get the grant.
Absolutely.
Help me out here, Joe. I think you said twice now that the matching grant will be at least 5,000. But what I'm hearing is there's a limit on what the grant cannot exceed 25,000.
Yes, the local matching funds have to be at least 5% of the grant. So at a minimum, the town would have to put in 1,250. So the total would be 26,250. If the town were to put in 20% match instead of a 5% minimum, the maximum would be the $25,000 grant plus a 20% town match of 5,000, which would bring it to 30,000. So the match is the local portion that we put in.
Right. So
The minimum is 5. I would recommend that we commit to, what did I put in there? I think we just said the minimum of 5% when we submit the application. The intent was we were going to put in 5,000, which would be a 20% match. But all you're committing to in this resolution is to make at least a 5% match.
Joe, is it your opinion, the higher the match, the better likelihood you will get the funds from the municipal association? Or this is just a gut feeling, it's not an absolute?
I mean, having never been involved in any of their grant reviews in the past, I would imagine they're probably looking at things like a community's ability to pay and things like that. There are other communities that are in far worse situation who probably don't have the wherewithal to come up with $5,000. We do. We can find $5,000. Absorbing 30,000 or something like that. That's a bit of a stretch, especially when we have, our beach patrol contract went up as much as it did this current year and for the next 4 years. So I think 5,000 would be a reasonable amount if we could commit to doing that. Whether it gives us a leg up on others, I can't really say whether it would or wouldn't. My hunch is they're probably going to be balancing that against a community's ability to come up with the funds. So, if you're looking at us and a smaller town, somewhere in the PD, and we're coming up with 5%, they're coming up with 5%. Would they give an edge to them? Maybe. If we're coming up with 20%, would they give an edge to us? Maybe. Really hard to say, but I think it would make our request more competitive.
That's fine. I mean, I'm just looking at the fact is, we're likely going to, with or without their grant, we're likely going to end up spending money to do this. So whatever makes our chances for getting the grant greater, that's what we should do.
Mhm.
So Joe, you're not saying that we're going to put up matching funds more than 5,000, right?
No, when we submit the grant, we would define, the project cost, what's being requested, how much we would put up. And like I said, our intent is we're looking probably at about a $30,000 project. We would put up 5 with 25 coming from the grant.
Yeah, our commitment here is to approve the matching funds up to 5,000, not at least 5,000. The problem I have with hearing at least 5,000 is I don't know what the maximum is of our match. So the maximum of our match will be 5,000. So we are approving matching up to 5,000.
It's gonna be more.
I mean, in here, we're saying we will commit at least 5,000.
At least, that's the minimum.
Yeah. Now, if the project comes in at 40,000 and we have to come up with another 10, council can make a determination, that we would come in with more. But, ultimately, at a minimum, we're required to, at the very least, equal 5%, which is
I
$1,250.
understand the minimum. That's not my question. The question was, there's 25,000 available from the grant. And then we put up matching funds. But I'm trying to understand if we're saying our matching funds can go to be equal to the grant, exceed the grant. When I hear at least 5,000, I don't know what the maximum is of our matching funds.
Well, I think that's left to council's discretion, depending on, at this point, we don't know how much the project is going to cost. We have an estimate that we're basing this on. The total cost of the project may exceed that. The grant's only going to cap at 25,000. So if the cost of the project is, 35 or 40, the town will have the discretion to spend more than 5,000. The commitment that you're making to MASC is that we are going to provide at least a certain amount. And that amount that we've put in here is at least 5,000. You have the discretion to do more, but the commitment that this resolution is making is that the town will commit at least 5,000. You're not obligating yourself to spend more. All you're obligating yourself is that you will provide at a minimum $5,000.
I got it. All right. Anything further? Hearing nothing? So going to have a motion to approve the resolution 2021-22 as presented and discussed.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor, signify your approval by saying aye. Aye.
aye.
The resolution is approved. Anything else, Joe?
I did just pull up the ATAX application. We do have it at 30,000. The committee did recommend that amount, but they are essentially over on the recommendation if we fully fund beach patrol. So based on our current budget estimates, there's not enough to fully fund it at 30,000. So, that's what's in there currently. If we find out that, if we need to balance the ATAX budget, we're going to have to reduce that. But if we receive the grant, we're essentially able to reduce that down to $5,000. and, preserve that excess ATAX funds in our balance for more pressing service needs. So the 30,000 that we have in here does match the 25 from MASC and the 5,000 from state ATAX as matching funds. And then if for some reason council approves what the ATAX committee's recommended, you would essentially be committing to go and we did not receive this grant. Council can still move forward with the project, but we would have to eat into our ATAX fund balance in order to fully fund that.
All right.
So with that, that was the only action item we had.
Very well. Anything else from any other member? Hearing nothing. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the special called council meeting of September 14th, 2021.
I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.